little people. Alright. Great thing. I don't know what it is yet. We'll come up with it. Then today we're focused on... what were we going to talk about? Today we're really focused on marketing yourself into a yes, not trusting your no. Go figure. I guess we'll see where it goes from there. I know there was other stuff. Okay. Yeah. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited that you're here. So grateful and so ready to get started. So this entire podcast, the whole format, the whole thing, we've been ramping up to this idea that you can just write your dreams down if you just know what you're going after. Everything will fall into place. And we're going to talk about that today. I almost skipped our great thing because I'm just all amped up about what we're talking about today. But my great thing from the weekend really was just allowing myself room and space to come up with an answer for something that I've been debating kind of back and forth. And I answered both ways. I said yes, and that yes made me so anxious and so nervous, and so it was just so encompassing. And I felt like there was so much energy that I was using to kind of feel around that yes and really take on the complexity of that yes. And so I've been bouncing it around, this idea, this decision, for a couple of weeks now, and talking to different friends, getting different viewpoints, really not settling until I kind of have the best idea of what I know in my head. And so on Friday night, I had one final conversation with one of my really close friends about this idea, and she was just kind of like, you know what? You're not wrong, right? And I had gone back and forth on yeses and nos, and I finally just kind of decided that it would be no. And the overwhelming wave of relief that came over me, and then, you know, the next day, usually if I go running or I go work out, that's where I do a lot of my planning and a lot of my thought process for this work, for all the work that I'm doing. And I went running, and I finally felt this work come back to me, and I had kind of lost it for a week and a half or so, where it just didn't feel like it was aligning, like it was flowing the way that it was before, and I didn't know where that block came from. And I now realize that the block was from me attempting to talk myself out of knowing what was right. And I wanted to kind of fight that, because if I'm being 100% honest, it kind of just sounded awesome to win again. And I talked about that in the bonus episode this weekend, if you go back. But I think winning for something that doesn't align is short term. And I've begun to realize that winning at things that don't line up with where I'm going will not serve me the way that I need them to, and have a potential to distract me from what I'm doing. And I so real time realized that. I mean, it was almost disgusting how it just captivated my every thought. And I constantly move into those waves. I mean, when I am in, I am all in. And so it is vital that I take a step back and that I focus on what aligns with me. And so this journey specifically, this one that we're on, that we've been on for the last year together, is about rediscovering that alignment, right? Re-knowing. Because if and when you don't, you're going to continue just spinning in this world of thought and possibility with no action. And action creates clarity. And so when I'm struggling with this idea, it's really more of a struggle with the fact that this doesn't really align. And that's hard for me to breathe in. Really hard. Because it doesn't mean that I don't want it to. It doesn't mean on some levels it couldn't or doesn't. But I think staying true to that no, really slowing down and paying attention to my body and my mind's reaction. And luckily these times, these COVID times, have given me that ability to really dive in and take time and listen to myself. Whereas if we were out of COVID times, my life, my weekend life, my after work life would have been so consumed with activities that I never would have been able to slow down and actually listen to my body's reaction. I would have just forged through because I would have been too busy to pay attention to it. And, you know, I think sometimes, and I took 2 naps this weekend, which is really rare for me, but the realization and the heaviness of the fact that I just turned down what could have been a really big win for me took a toll, because that's what we're set up to do, right? We're set up to want to win. We're set up to know that. And I am probably one of the more competitive people that I know. But that doesn't mean that I can just pass up what I know to get that win, because it's not going to work out, right? I'm going to end up in the same place, feeling lost and feeling like I devoted all my time to this thing that wasn't me. And so I am so proud of myself for committing to me and committing to what I know right now at this very moment, and giving myself space to actually listen, right? To listen to that now. And you never know. You never know. You don't know if you're making the right decision or not. And if I'm being 100% honest, there really are no wrong decisions. That's what's harder. It doesn't always have to be wrong and driving off a cliff, right? Sometimes wrong just looks like an uneasy feeling in your stomach, or this unexplainable feeling of not right. And I think sometimes we look at wrong for us as oh no, we got it wrong, now we went bankrupt, or we, are living on the street, or like wrong doesn't have to be that extreme, right? It'd be beautiful if that's how we measured it, but I truly believe that the wrongs of our life live in the not quite right. Yeah. And I have finally been actually listening to my own no and trying to stay focused with her. Like, okay, yes, let's not go there again. So that's my great thing. We submit and speak to great things every single day. It is a challenge to you. Are you willing to expand your own greatness? Are you willing to show up for you and the great things that you do? You should be. You 100% should be. Start showing up for her. Okay, let's go ahead and dive in. We're past our great thing. So on this topic of knowing, we're talking about, this idea that we get really good at marketing ourselves away from our own no, right? And that may not be the best way to describe that, but I just did, so try and stop me. Sorry, I take that back. Okay. Oh, I put in a lot of cinnamon today. Okay. Marketing yourself into a yes or no, right? And when we aren't paying attention to what our body's reaction is, what our mind's reaction is, when we're just shifting through and moving through the motions as fast as we possibly can, it gets really hard to know. And it gets even harder to actually listen when you're filling your head with noise that isn't yours. So a daily routine of silence and meditation or self-growth helps to bridge that gap. And we hear that a lot from, superstar professionals in anything that they do, that there is a silence time, there is an alone time, there is this moment of solitude that they give themselves. And I think this is where we, as common people, get lost. We think that it's just about doing all the things. And so we fill our schedules and time with thing after thing after thing after thing. And in doing that, we completely lose our substance, our contribution to this world. And so it's vital that you start scheduling yourself alone time and, honestly, nothing time. Sometimes nothing needs to happen at all, right? And if you're being challenged by that, probably a really great practice for you to adopt. So this looks like for this gal right here. You're listening to her. For me, that looks like sitting down with my tea every single morning by myself. And so, yes, that means that I wake up at insane hours of the morning to avoid my family in order to get this silent time, right? And so in the constructs of the content creation process that I go through, that silent time really looks like about 5 to 10 minutes where I'm just with my thoughts in my teacup and we're bouncing through ideas and feelings and stillness. Right? Yeah, we're bouncing through stillness. You heard that. That's a complex thought. Right? Because I'm being still. but my mind feels super uncomfortable in this silence. I mean, if you've been listening to me for any amount of time, you know how uncomfortable silence makes me, especially with myself, especially with people I don't feel comfortable with. Like, silence is my nemesis, along with wind. Wind is also my nemesis, okay? And so, if this thought makes you uncomfortable, it is probably vital that you start doing it and start stair-stepping yourself to growth in this space. It will feel wildly uncomfortable, but my morning looks about like this. 3:45, my alarm goes off, generally downstairs by 3:50, having prep time for the 2 smoothies that I make and the tea that I make. And so I'm probably sitting down by about 4:10 a.m. And I take some of that time to just sit and drink my tea and be quiet and listen to myself, to my thoughts, to my feelings. Am I feeling overwhelmed? Am I feeling underwhelmed? What is leading to these feelings? What has changed over the last couple of days? Where are we and how did we get here? How are we feeling today? Is there energy coursing through our veins? Is there anxiety coursing through our brains? And I kind of walk paths back to and forward from the feelings that I'm having in that moment. And so that reflection time can last anywhere from 5 minutes to 30 minutes. And it really is just about finding that stillness, finding that space alone to listen. Listen to the bounce. Listen to my reactions. Listen to where we're at right now. Listen to all of her, my body and my mind, the whole collection of who I am and what I'm about to be. So I think there is that sweet spot of you not being able to market yourself into something that doesn't align. It really comes with that constant practice of silence and listening. And so I realize that I am a marketer by trade. And so I am like expertly skilled at marketing people. And if I am being 100% honest, this was a skill that I had long before I went to college. And I also realized that I had said skill. And I would use that skill to get myself copious amounts of things, whether it was new volleyball shoes or just fill in the blank, a new car or whatever. I became really skilled at finding my way in and positioning as such, knowing who I was talking to, finding what their kind of proof points were for success, finding what those pressures were and speaking to them and getting what I wanted because of it. And so I'm actually really good at turning this on myself. And so when I was talking about just wanting to win, it's been a season of loss for this gal right here. And so when you're dangling this beautiful opportunity for me to get a quick win, and as I'm looking to reflect on whether or not this is right, it really comes down to what are the things that we're trying to accomplish here. And I think if I didn't have that listed true north, and I didn't also give myself silence in that moment, it would have been really easy to just hurry up and grab that carrot, because trust me, mama needs to eat. Mama needs carrot. But that's a part of this growth, right? I'm also really excited about being in this new space, really committing to it. And so I know that opportunities that aligned earlier in my life, that I've served that purpose as I see it right now. And that's not saying that it won't ever come back up, but right now, today, my focus can't go there. I already saw where I went with that energy. I saw, because I gave myself a week of unofficially saying yes to it, and I saw how that derailed me from this work, and this is what I want to do. And so while it could, and this is what I bounced around with my friend a lot, it could absolutely align. And as I'm marketing to myself, I'm saying, yep, this is how it aligns. It's similar. It's pretty close. Like, this could give you what you're looking for. And so giving myself kind of that week's worth of yes really showed me that you can't just market your way into this space, right? You can't just go here again because you know right now that it just doesn't align, right? That it's close, but not close enough. And so that's kind of the thing, you know? And we get so good at marketing for what we want, and we're not great at sitting in silence with where we're trying to head and really reflecting on if this truly aligns or not. And it's not that we don't know, or even that we don't take time in silence. It's that sometimes we don't have that true north. A lot of times, if someone just asks you what you want to do, what you want to be, how many of us have an actual answer for that? Right? I know the people that I talk to in my circle don't. A lot of us were just kind of floating by. Like, well, I don't know. If I really could do anything, I guess I would do this. Well, that is the beginning of a true north, but success comes from the specifics. You don't just become Michael Jordan doesn't just become the greatest basketball player of all time because he's like, think maybe I'll go do this. Think maybe, no. Like, we started watching the documentary The Last Dance, and it's like, yeah, you don't just wander into success. It doesn't just happen because you woke up and you were like, well, maybe someday I'll go win 3 titles. No, that was a very deliberate call out on what he wanted to do. Listen to the specifics of what he was saying the entire time. Right? It's deliberate. And that's what it takes. And you may be listening to this and going, well, I just kind of like my life. I'm just kind of here for all things. No, you are not here for all things. You are going to burn out, feel exhausted, and like you did absolutely nothing. We have to get specific. Do you want to manifest your dream life? Then you better actually know what the fuck it is. Yeah. That might be important. Don't sit here and tell me that you don't know and then keep marketing yourself into what's going to give you the quickest win. Right? Hannah, listen up, sister. You're going to have to go through a loss. And you know what? You've won enough. You've been winning. Your entire life is a win. No one can question that. Right? But what are you actually willing to do for yourself? What do you actually want, and say no to everything that isn't that or doesn't align directly with that? And go ahead and take time and take space to think this through. You have time. Decisions do not need to be made that quickly. And if anyone's trying to rush you on it, you just tell them no. Right? Big decisions deserve time. And yes, you can do what I did. For the last 2 weeks, I've been bouncing around this idea of this decision of what I wanted to do. And so I gave myself time and space, saying yes. Now, that wasn't like a direct yes, an agreement, signing a contract. I said yes to myself. And then I let myself explore and imagine what that yes looks like and what that means to my life. And exploring and imagining in that yes moment. And I allowed myself to say yes for about a week. And I didn't tell anyone other than a couple of friends that I was bouncing this idea around with. I gave myself yes. And I explored what that felt like. And to be honest, it felt like people being excited for me to be back in that space. But if I was being 100% honest, I wasn't. But it was super exciting to have people excited for me again. It was. It was hard to say no and be okay with that no, because it was just exciting to have people excited for me. But I gave myself space with that yes. Plenty of space. About a week of space. And anytime that I would think about it, talk about it, I realized how much time and energy it absorbed. And is that where I want my time and energy going right now? Because for that week, that was all of my time, thought, and energy, and I hadn't even done a thing. So imagine when the rubber actually meets the road, when you actually have to start committing actual time to it, not just imaginary time, right? And so in imagining, in taking that space, I realize that I was constantly having to psych myself up for this opportunity, while there were like little tiny wins, like people being excited that I would get back into this space. Like those were the things that had I not taken the full amount of space necessary, those are the things that would have just pushed me to do something that I knew wasn't true to me. And so I decided that I was going to push past that and give myself even just a day of what no looked like. And I have to be honest, no, even just a day of no felt better than the week of yes. And that knowing was all that I needed. It felt better. And not better in a way of like, oh, I just don't want that responsibility or that, like, it just really doesn't align with who I am and where I'm going. And if I could talk myself into it, there's no question that I could. I already had created this list of like, okay, well, it would have to meet this, and this, and this, and this to be right. The creation of that list is telling me that it probably isn't right. When you know, right? Like it shouldn't have to meet these strict standards. It should just meet standards that you already had. I was creating new standards that didn't ever exist before because they weren't necessary, right? If it was going to line up, it would have lined up with what the list already was. I wouldn't have to create a new one, right? And so the no was hard to say because it's been a season of dry nothingness, of no real tangible wins. And it's so hard to forge past what you know would give you success. But I know in the long run, it's not going to. Right? I know in the long run, it's not going to be what I want it to be. Could it check some boxes? Yes. Could it align? Yes. Would it be success? No question. I don't really question anymore whether or not I'll be successful. I know that I'll be successful at whatever I do. So that's really off the table, right? Because that's what people will say. Oh my gosh, you'll be so great. You'll be so yeah, I know, right? I already know that. I already have confidence there. I already know that I am going to show up until I get it right every day. I have that down pat. And so it becomes vital for me and people like me to protect themselves from taking on what other people want for them. It is really hard for us to show up for our own yeses because people know that we're going to be successful. Success repeats itself. And so people are like, hey, come sign up for this thing. We know that you'll take it. We know that you'll do it. We know that you'll do great. Come do this. And so you have to be willing to stand up and say and listen to yourself. Say what that path is going to look like. Don't sit here and keep telling me, I don't know, whatever, however it all plays out. No. How do you want it to play out? What are the things that you want to do? And then say no to everything that doesn't line up directly with that. From here on out, go for it and you'll know, right? And if it's something that you're really challenged by, give yourself time to explore the yes and the no. Because that will probably be your answer. And if you feel like you have to keep talking yourself into a yes, the answer is probably no. Hey, thanks for being here today. Thanks for checking out The Death of a Dream. This is where you'll find your daily realignment with where you're trying to head. I know that a daily format is just so necessary when you're getting into this work of self-growth, this work of eliminating limiting beliefs, this work of manifesting your dream life. And so I'm bringing it to you every day. It's not a singular event. It's not get pumped up for 3 days out of the week and then rest for the rest of them. It's every day showing up in the trenches, showing up for who you want to be. And so that's where we're at and that's where we're headed. You can check out nussink.com for even more content, blogs, everything. That's where you can sign up for the kind of weekly recap and inbox details for things that only my listeners can get. Go ahead and head over there to sign up for that, to be a part of that, and to have, some VIP access to all the things that we're about to do here together. You'll learn first, you'll get super secret VIP insider access to different events that we're going to do, to different webinars and challenges that we're going to do together as our community. So head over there to sign up for that VIP list. You don't have to scroll too far to see it. You'll see it says VIP access. You can sign up right there. Thank you for being here. As always, you're smart, you're strong, you're beautiful. What are you going to do? Change the world.